Hi, this is Anthony Hamilton. This is a recording made on April the 27th. It's actually part two of a video recorded on April the 20th about what is the correct mindset to 10x your results using a new scientific model of consciousness called quantum consciousness. Using some of the newest ideas in physics and neuroscience to answer the question, how do I most effectively achieve my goals and improve my life?
And they were the first ones to get back to me. And I ended up jumping on a Zoom call with their, what the heck is she? Hang on. Who is she? She is the workforce development manager for the Vancouver Regional Construction Association. And so I chatted with her for a while because she's basically the one that determines the training and sets up the schedules and works with potential trainers. And she seemed really taken with me and said that she wanted to connect me to, her name is Amelia, and she's basically like their event coordinator. So she handles all of their conferences. And so she ended up connecting with me like the same day. And she reached out and wanted to learn a little bit more about me. So I sent her a little bit of information about what I could offer, along with the fact that I've personally been working in construction for over 15 years, which I think gives me a little bit more of an edge than some coach that just shows up and has never even been on a work site, right?
Right.
So so I haven't heard back from her yet. I'll follow up with her probably on Monday because I took the day off. And then on Wednesday night, that was Wednesday morning, Wednesday night, I went to an event for women in construction it was called Wine Wednesdays, and it was at a lady's
down your
house that
alley.
I work with. Yeah, right. Probably shouldn't have driven home from that one, but anywho. But she was talking, and so I did a little bit of research before I went to the event because I'd never been into anything for ECABC before. And I saw this thing called Lean In Circles. So I asked her about it. And then I guess my Google now, because I Googled it, has given me some information on it. And so I created my own Women in Construction Lean In Circle this morning.
Oh.
And so then I'm going to start doing those monthly meetings. They give you this entire, like not a script, but basically itinerary of like how to run the meetings and how to bring people together. And I thought, oh, that's like me putting myself in a position of power and then bringing people to me from all these different places. I was telling my sister about it, and she said, "Oh, Jess," she goes, "women in construction is a huge niche for speaking." And so then she sent me a whole bunch of information on past events from down in the States where I could potentially go and submit my applications to do some speaking gigs now. So I just feel like all of a sudden this little niche that she says they pay big bucks for just opened wide open for me. So feeling pretty good. Feeling pretty good right now.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Did you watch last week's video?
I did not.
Well, you should watch it.
Okay.
Not to say you should, but I mean, I would recommend it. I'm going to do another part of it today. I started something last week, but I didn't quite finish it. So I'm going to carry on today, but it applies directly to what you're talking about here.
Okay.
So let me remind you of what happened. Now I'm not taking any credit for this because all I'm doing is I'm just describing what I see you doing, right?
All right.
Last fall, I think, you showed me this thing you wrote down how much income you want to be making this year, something like that. So it was kind of a 10x idea or 5x idea, something like that, right?
Okay.
And so I remember saying to you, now you're thinking of like selling books and things like that, which is what you're doing at the moment, right?
I'm still doing that. I still love
You're
it.
still doing that, and that's obviously going to be a part of it, right? But I said, you might find that new things come your way, new doors opening, because it might not be realistic, at least at the moment, to think about selling X number of thousands and thousands of books that'll 10x your income, in like the next year, because that was your goal, was January, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now here it is April already, so the time has already passed. But the thing is, you opened that door in your mind, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what I see, two things have happened since then, which were totally unexpected. One, you have this agent now that's looking for work for you to do voiceover work and commercials, which is could be a huge potential, windfall, right?
Yep.
And then now this thing, where suddenly like you're in a situation now where theoretically you could be doing, keynote speeches and giving talks to these different conventions and things and making big bucks, making a month's worth of salary in a day or more.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So all of a sudden it's like, whoa, that little idea of, being your future self now,
Mm-hmm.
it's from where I sit, it's sort of starting to manifest, right?
Oh,
You
heck
know,
yeah.
that virtual reality, shall we say, is
Mm-hmm.
now becoming more and more real, right? It's starting to influence your.
Screaming to me now instead of whispering.
That's right. So good for you. That's
Thank you.
fantastic.
And
Um,
the thing though I want to point out, because I'm a big, big, big believer in this, because um it's one thing to get the ideas and it's one thing to think that you want something. But the one thing that I notice that differentiates me a little bit from some of the people that I've been spending time with who are not necessarily getting these opportunities is like I took action. Like
yeah,
I followed up. I've done the things. I created this. I'm the reason I'm doing a table today for my books is because I asked if I could.
yeah,
They didn't present it to me, I presented it to them, right? And that's one of the things that I noticed is big difference. A couple of people that I've been sort of spending time with recently, they have all these great ideas, but they don't actually do anything with them.
right.
And I think that's the big differentiator.
Oh yeah, it's action, right? Taking action.
Yep.
And of
Yep.
course, there's not only physical action like knocking on somebody's door or talking to somebody or going to a
Yep.
convention and meeting people. There's
Yep.
the inner action too, right? Like thinking of that thought. Like I am my future self now. Here I am. It's the future. I'm making, 10 times the money, whatever. And actually doing that to the point where your little neurons kind of go, "Hey, wait a second now. Let me
Let me
let,
connect that to something
let
new
me
for
think about
you.
this. Yeah, what can I do to help, right?
Mhm.
Um, yeah, that's fantastic. No, I agree 100% that
Yep.
you're taking action. So when is your thing at the bookstore?
At 1 o'clock. And so I need to get myself together and then I need to go stop at another bookstore and pick up something before I go as well. So,
Yeah, great. That person who you were talking to about the construction speaking, have
mhm.
they seen your workbooks and things, your journals?
Oh, not yet.
Yeah, that'll blow their mind when they see that.
Well, I'm actually writing a book specifically for it's called Human Needs in the Workplace.
Yeah, you mentioned that.
So that was kind of like where the how the book writing all of a sudden turned into me even considering wanting to work with corporations.
Right.
Right? It was because I decided that I needed to get this, and I've been testing it out at work. Did I tell you that? I've been running social
Yeah,
experiments at work. It's
yeah, that's
so
right. You did
fun.
mention that.
So fun. So I'm trying to prove my own theories.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. No, that's fantastic.
Hmm.
Um, so I don't know who else is going to come today. I mean, you're here, but you have to leave.
Well, I'm good
Um,
till about 11.
but if you can, think about that last week. If you want, we can start right now. I can just go through what I was going to go through.
Sure. Yeah, I'm good. Like I
Um,
said, I'm good till about 11. So we got
okay.
45
Yeah, we
minutes.
got time then. So
Hmm.
what's the time now? Let's see.
10:15.
Okay. Yeah. So let's get going. So
You are recording, correct?
yes, I am. Just let me double check here.
Mhm.
Oh, by the way, I just got a message from Greg saying he might be a little late. So that's good.
Okay.
And
And Yvette is working.
Yvette's working. Phil, I don't know. I think he might be busy. And
Recovering from his 10K still?
no, he's doing good. I was talking to him a
Okay.
couple days ago.
Oh, good.
He said he was just a little sore for a day or so, but
Yeah.
no, he did good. he did great.
Awesome.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's get going then. So what? So what we're talking about here is possibilities, right?
Okay.
Now, my fundamental metaphor for this new model of consciousness that I call quantum consciousness. I'm not the only one that calls it that. But this idea of thinking as information moving through time, i.e., your mind is a time machine, kind of like a radio, that picks up information from the past and from the future, right? So that idea I got from reading something about Albert Einstein. He said the laws of time and the laws of space are mirror images of each other. In other words, he said there is no time, there is no space, there's space time. And the principles of moving through space, or at least, the principles of space and the principles of time are the same, basically, right? So that was the first big insight that I got, because I was trying to figure out how is it possible to get information from the future, right? And so what I thought was, here, I'll see if I can share my screen here. Let me see. This was the first insight that I got, right? Can you see this picture?
Yep.
So so I thought, okay, well, here I am trying to figure out how it's possible to get information from the future. Well, if memory is a connection, then it must go both ways, right? Like if I'm connected to you, I'm getting information from you, you're getting information from me. So, I'm getting pictures and sounds and whatever ideas from you, you're getting them from me. So this is information moving through space. So if information is moving through time the same way, then that explains how at age 10 I could get information from my age 32. Because what I had started doing around the age of 30 was I started doing creative visualization, right? And so I was doing this visualization, and I thought, well, that makes perfect sense then. So I can remember being 10. I can remember having that dream. So if I can remember it, and thinking is a connection, then memory is a connection. Therefore, I'm connected to my 10-year-old. And if I'm connected to the 10-year-old, and I was 32 at the time, so if I'm connected to the 32, then the 10-year-old and the 32 are connected. It makes sense. I could have that information from my 32nd year at age 10. So it suddenly was like, now it makes sense. Whereas before it didn't make sense, right? Because everything I had learned about thinking and time and the mind and everything said, memory is a recording. It's in your brain somewhere. The future hasn't happened. There's no possible way you can get information from the future. Which I realized, that's completely wrong, right? And of course now science has figured that out too. So, so using this idea of physics as a model for what thinking is, that's given me all kinds of insights and information about how the mind works in terms of changing the past, changing the future, attracting your goals, all those things that we've talked about, right? I mean, basically mind, time, and power. That's everything came from that, right? So if I share my screen again, okay, this is what they call a light cone, right?
Okay.
Now this is from quantum physics. Or from physics, at least, right? Maybe relativity physics. But it's certainly from physics, okay? So what they say is this point in the middle here, where these two cones meet, right? So the past cone is, they call that the field of possible pasts, right? So in terms of physics, what they're talking about is light. Now, when you look at the stars at night, right, you see one, like the Andromeda Galaxy, is 2.5 million light years away. You look at the moon is 1.3 seconds away, right, in terms of light speed. So if you look at the moon and you look at the Andromeda Galaxy, and then you look at some other star, you look at Mars or something, what you're doing, you're actually looking through time, because at the same moment you're getting information that's 1.3 seconds old, 2.5 million light years old, 2.5 million years old, and all the other different ages of the light, depending on what you're looking at, right? So this light cone. Now, what they've got here is they have on the x-axis. You see, it says the hyper surface of the present, right? Can you see that?
Mm-hmm.
That's the physical world, right? So, in other words, the 3 dimensions of space are drawn as the x-axis on this graph, right? And the y-axis is time. So this is space and time. That's what they've plotted out here. So what they say is, if a beam of light is visible in the present, then there's only a certain number of places that it could have come from. Let's say in the last week, right? For example, you couldn't have a beam of light coming from the Andromeda Galaxy. You couldn't see it as it was last week. You're seeing it as it was 2.5 million years ago, right? So if you think about moving through space, it's like, you're going to drive to Maple Ridge today, right? So when you get to Maple Ridge, somebody says, "Oh, where are you coming from?" You say, "Oh, I'm coming from Burnaby, right? Coquitlam." And they say, "Oh, how long did it take you?" And you say, "Oh, it took me almost 3 minutes." They'd go, "What? That's impossible, right? Because you can't drive from Burnaby to Maple Ridge in 3 minutes. It's going to take you an hour or 45 minutes or whatever it is, right? It's going to take a certain amount of time." So in other words, that light cone, that represents what they call the field of possibility, right? Anything that's happening in the present that you can see in the present, it's defined by that light cone. It can only have come from this region of the past. And likewise, if you look into the future, like an hour from now or a week from now, that light cone defines what's possible in the future, right? You got it?
Yep.
So if you jump into your car and you say, "I'm going to drive for, an hour," well, there's you could draw a circle on the map that says, okay, all of these places on this map, any place in this circle, you could get to in an hour. But you couldn't get to New York City in an hour. You couldn't get to Texas in an hour. You couldn't get to Toronto in an hour. So that's kind of the same idea, right? So that's what they call the cone of possibility, or the light cone, right? Now, to me, what I interpret that as, to me, that's a perfect way of visualizing our belief system. Because when you are sitting in the now, when we're sitting in the now, right? And you think in terms of any parameter that you want to think of. Think of your income, right? Well, your income has been more or less consistent all the way through. So on that timeline of your present, right? On the timeline of your present, on that map of inner space-time, your income is more or less consistent, and it goes through the present, and on into the future. If you don't make any changes, your income next year is going to be more or less the same as it is now, and 2 years is going to be more or less the same, maybe a little more because inflation, whatever, right? But it's not going to 10x by doing the same thing, right? So you say, wait a second, 10x. Well, 10x is way over here. That's outside the light cone. So basically, that's impossible, right? So you're going to say, okay, can I 10x my income? Well, it's impossible. It can't happen. But it is possible in 10 years, right? Because if you look at your income 10 years ago, your income would have been, half of what it is now or something, maybe, right? So depending on how far into the future you look and how far into the past you look, various things are possible if you give them enough time, right? So that's the light cone. So to me, that idea sort of is a graphic way of understanding visually what the limits of my belief are, right? Certain things are impossible, certain things are possible, right? So this is what we talked about last week with Greg and I. We covered this part, right? So the other part of it, which I didn't cover, which I'll get into right now. Okay, here we go, right? Can you see this?
Yep.
Okay, so this is the future, right? Or the future is up ahead and the past is behind. So this is the light cone now superimposed on that map of inner space-time, right? So if your goal is 10x your income, it's way out to the left, right? Now, if you give yourself enough time, you can see how that light cone is going to spread out into the future. So by the time you're doing what you do now and following the general flow of your life in the present and how it's been in the past, doing the same thing, kind of the status quo, right? That you can see that for you to earn 10x your income, it's going to take some years into the future, right? But here's the thing. It's possible to move that light cone. You see? So now the light cone is over to the left. Well now your goals, your wishes, your dreams, the future virtual events that you want in your future, they're right in line with that light cone at the moment, right? So what does that mean? Well, to me, the way I think about it is that light cone now has shifted, right? So it's like, be your future self now. Imagine that this is where your light cone is. So like if you want to, make, let's say you want to make $200,000 a year, well, that might be outside the realm of your belief at the moment. You may think, how could I do that? Work 3 times or 4 times whatever, change jobs, become an actress, maybe get into movies, whatever. So how would you get that light cone to switch? You tell me.
I guess work on your beliefs. Dream bigger.
Yeah.
Be open to possibilities. Take risks. And I guess just try to just think beyond what I'm currently doing. So thinking bigger.
Yeah. So the key word there is think, right?
Okay.
So in other words, using your inner senses. So your outer senses define your physical world, you live in the physical world and you have the outer senses and everything you see and everything you believe and everything, that you experience is consistent, and the way that people see you is consistent. Everything fits, right? So there's what they call, cognitive resonance there, right? Everything makes sense. But when you imagine, when you say to yourself something like, okay, now I am now earning 10x my current income. And you can put a number on that, whatever your income is. You say, okay, I'm making $800,000 a year right now, right? So that becomes your visualization. That's your future self. Okay? So from that future self, from that light cone, shall we say, is the possibility of you earning that 10x income right away because it's right in line with where you're pointing from your inner self, from your future self, right? So be your future self now. That's what it means. Is like be the person right now in your inner world. Imagine, believe, think, feel, visualize, expect that you are earning that 10x income right now, right? Now, what's going to happen at first is going to be what they call cognitive dissonance, right? In other words, it's going to feel weird. You're going to either, you're going to have all these thoughts and feelings and emotions like, ooh, that's impossible. I don't deserve it. It can't be real. It's, it would never happen. It's impossible, right? But hey, those are just your neurons in your brain going crazy trying to say, wait a second, I never thought about this before. This doesn't seem to jibe with my beliefs, with my reality, with my experience, right? But if you keep doing it, do it for 100 days, 5 minutes a day. I am now earning X, 10X the income, right? I'm now earning this amount of money. Now, what's going to happen is your ideas are going to change. You're going to start to get a bunch of ideas flowing in your mind, and also feelings, right? So when you feel like, hey, this is the kind of money I'm making now, this is the kind of person I am, I'm a person who deserves and who's used to earning this kind of money, right? As you get more used to it, your ideas are going to change, and your comfort level is going to change. Your comfort zone is going to shift. And you're going to feel like, hey, for me to have an agent who's finding me work in TV, that fits, right? For me to have a friend who sets up speaking gigs for me with these conferences, and I'm getting paid, $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 a day, plus expenses. Yeah, that fits,
US,
right?
US.
It fits, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm this person now. I am this person. Mm-hmm. So to me, that idea of the light cone there is a brilliant way to understand, how you can shift your belief. Now, what is it going to take to move that light cone? It's going to take energy, right? But it's going to take thought energy, It's going to take belief energy. And we know that in order to develop a new neural pattern, a new belief system, shall we say, it's going to take time. People that I know, people that I follow who do this kind of training, there's a few of them around. They say, when you visualize every day, and over a period of 30 days, the scientists are going to be able to start to measure some changes in your neurons. But you won't necessarily notice it because, you may get a different kind of an idea, but it won't seem possible. It won't seem real. It won't seem likely. Yeah, that could never happen, But think about right now. I mean, you could theoretically right now get a phone call from this lady that says, hey, I got a commercial lined up for you. I have an audition. Go next week and do this audition. Well, if it is a commercial and people see you, right? Let's say, well, somebody who may be making a movie may look at you and go, hey, that lady there, she's got exactly the look and exactly the voice, and she seems like she's the kind of person that I want in this movie of mine, right? So suddenly you get a call from a movie producer, and he says, hey, I'd like to talk to you about this movie I'm making. Well, suddenly now, that's like within the realm of possibility, right? It's like the light cone now is shifted. So your world, i.e. the people in your world and the possibilities that exist in your world, starting to shift, right? Now you have two people in your life that you didn't have in your life a couple of months ago. One is like an agent helping you get commercials or voiceover work, and the other one is the lady who organizes speakers and trainers for companies in the manufacturing industry, right? In the construction industry. So it's like, oh wow, big change, So this is a parallel, as I see it. This is exactly parallel to the journey that Michael Caine went on. When he was 20 years old, he said, I want to be in movies. I want to be in a movie directed by John Huston, and I want to be a successful actor in movies. Well, it took around 12 years for that to happen. But in the meantime, his world shifted, When he first started, he didn't know any actors. He didn't know any producers. He didn't know any directors. He didn't know anybody who was a millionaire, right? He didn't know people that were making movies and that sort of thing. But over the next 12 years, he moved into a world working in the theater that suddenly he had a bunch of friends, you know. His roommate was a guy named Terrence Stamp. He's still around, I think. I was watching one of his movies the other day, a great movie called The Limey. If you haven't seen it, it's a great movie. Um, but it stars Terrence Stamp, you know. Well, he was Michael Caine's roommate. And one of his best buddies, a guy named Roger Moore,
Mm.
he was in a hit TV show called The Saint. Have you ever seen that show?
No.
Before your time. Anyway, it was a great TV show. It was called The Saint. He was kind of like a James Bond sort of character. You know, not exactly James Bond, but similar. You know, he was like this gentleman, you know, fixer, right?
I'm trying to think, what have I seen Roger Moore in? It was like a comedy, like a movie.
Well, he
Oh,
was he was James Bond for a while. Like
oh, wrong person. Okay.
after
I
Sean
was thinking
Connery.
Dudley Moore.
Oh, okay. Yeah, after Sean Connery
Right, Roger Moore. Okay.
did you know 5 or 6 or 7 James Bond movies, I think the next person they brought in was Roger Moore because he
Okay.
was a big star by then. You know, he was in The Saint and whatever, and so you know these were people that Michael Caine knew, right? So his belief, of course, was shifting, you know, because it was like, hey, if so and so can do it, I can do it, you know. And I get this, and there was a movie called Billy Budd that came out, I guess, in the '60s, maybe the '70s, which was sort of a pirate movie, and the star of the movie was Terrence Stamp. Well,
Okay.
that's Michael Caine's roommate, you know. So his world shifted so that the idea of being an actor when he was working in that butter factory, you know, and he said to this guy he was working with, because the guy said to him, "Hey, what are you doing working in this factory? You shouldn't be working here. You're a smart young guy. You should have some goals and ambitions. What is it you want to do with your life?" And he said, "Well, to tell you the truth, I want to be an actor." And the guy said, "You should get this magazine, this newspaper called Stage. You can buy
Mhm.
it at such and such a store, and it has jobs in there for actors." So he got a copy of that, and he got this job as a stage manager for this theater company. And you know that's how he started. But so
Perfect example of speaking it into existence, eh? Saying the right thing to the right person at the
well,
right time.
that's the thing, you see. And in his book, which I was listening to it this morning,
Mhm.
"Blow the Bloody Doors Off." Lessons for Life, it's called. I would highly recommend that you get that if you haven't got it.
I added it to my wish list.
Yeah, listen to the audiobook. It's great.
Next Audible credit comes along, I'll grab it.
Right. And so he took action, right? He had no idea. He had no idea when this guy said, you know, oh, there's a paper you should get. You can buy it at this store. You know, he could have said, what does he know? He's working in a butter factory. But he went and he got because it was like, hey, wait a second. Here's one of those what um, Steve Jobs said. You can't see the dots lining up looking forward. You can only see them lining up looking backwards and into the past. So it's the same thing, you know. These opportunities, these things pop up, and a lot of them are dead ends, you know, or they're ideas that don't pan out. But you try them, and they pan out. Some of them pan out. And you know, he said the last time he was in the dole, you know, he was in the lineup to get the unemployment insurance. He said two people in front of him was Sean Connery.
Crazy.
And you know, then Sean Connery became James Bond, you know, and whatever, and eventually, of course, he became a superstar himself, right, earning $1 million a picture. So that's the light cone, right? But if you think about what did it take for him to shift his light cone? Well, basically, it took work, right? It took faith, persistence, belief, effort, trying, you know, continuing to hold on to the dream, hold on to the vision, and with some people, sometime it can happen, right?
I'm giving
So
that late cone a quick shift boot over to where I want it.
Yeah, well, you can go there in your mind. You can easily do it,
Yep.
right? I mean,
Oh, I'm there. I'm there.
it's
Yeah.
just a thought. It's just a thought,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But it shifts your perspective. You know,
Hmm.
it's like I talked about that orchard. You know, all the trees line up. You know, but you move over 10 feet and they don't line up anymore, and then another 10 feet. No, they line up in the diagonal. You know, so it's like Steve Jobs says. You know, things line up when you're
Hmm.
looking backwards. You can
Hmm.
say, hey, if Michael Caine hadn't taken that job in the butter factory, he might never have been in the movies.
Hmm.
Well,
I
perhaps.
call it following the nudges. That's what I'm doing these days.
Yeah,
And then
exactly.
my
Well,
grandma calls them God winks.
exactly.
Yeah.
What's his name? Mike Campbell, Joseph Campbell. He says, "Follow your bliss."
Mm.
Well, what's bliss?
Mm.
Bliss is a feeling, right?
Mm.
So you know, someone says to you, "Hey, are you interested in doing some voiceover commercials?" You go, "Yeah." Right? That's follow your bliss. It's like, hey, that resonates with me. You know.
Well, it's funny
So
because I went from being terrified to do it to now I have like a whole setup ready for it. So anytime I get the email, I'm like, okay, off I go into my little space and I've got the clicker for my phone and the tripod for the phone and everything's ready to go now, right? Whereas
exactly,
the first time I did it, I had no idea what I was doing. I was terrified.
exactly.
So,
So
yeah,
what's fear? You know, fear is
mhm. Just unknown.
cognitive dissonance, right? It's like you're thinking something that makes no sense. It's like, what? You know, that doesn't make sense. Well, it doesn't
Mhm.
make sense at first, but, you know, afterwards it does make sense. You know, like
Mhm.
Michael Caine, when he was working in the butter factory and his father worked his whole life, his job was carrying dead fish. That was his job. That's what he
Mhm.
worked at his whole life. And his mother cleaned houses. That was her job. That's what she did her whole life.
Mhm.
Until he bought her a house, you know, at some point. He said, you know, and she didn't want to do it. You know, he offered to buy her a house, and she said, "Well, what do I do with my time?" You know, so she didn't want to quit her job because she liked it. But he said, "Mom, you know, I'm a movie star now. What's going to happen if the press finds out that I'm making millions of dollars a year and my mother's cleaning houses for a living? You know, they're going to crucify me, right?" So so she said, "Okay." So she quit. So he bought her a house, and she lived in this house. And she said, "When does the rent man come?" He said, "There's no rent man. It's yours. I paid for it. You know,
Yeah.
it's your house." She says, "Well, how much money do you make when you do your acting?" He says, "Well, $1 million." And she said, "What's that?"
Mhm.
She didn't have a clue. You know, so he was in a totally different world, totally different realm. You know,
Yeah.
and the funny thing was, have you heard the story about how he met his wife?
I don't know.
Anyway, it's a famous story, but he was watching TV one day and he saw this woman on a commercial and he said, "I got to meet that woman." And he was going to fly to Brazil because it was a Nescafe coffee commercial. And he
Hmm.
talked to his roommate and he said, "Hey, let's go to Brazil tomorrow. I got to meet this woman. I'm in love with this woman I saw on TV."
Hmm.
So, so he said, "Okay," And then they decided to go to this club, and they went out for a drink. And he was talking to this buddy of his, and he said, "I'm in love. I saw this woman on TV, and I'm flying to Brazil tomorrow. I'm going to meet her, you know." And so he said, "What? What were you doing?" He said, "Well, I was watching TV last night." And the guy said, "Well, I was watching TV. I didn't see any woman from Brazil on there." He said, "No, no, it was a commercial." He said, "Oh, the Nescafe commercial? The woman shaking the coffee beans like a maraca?" And he said, "Yeah." He said, "She lives on Fulham Road." He said, the company I work for made that commercial. I know her. She lives 5 miles from here, right?"
Love it.
So he introduced her, and anyway, so they fell in love, and it's a great story. But he said it's interesting, it's interesting because he said he was at a party one time, and of course he was with all these Hollywood bigwigs and producers and directors and everything. And at some point, somebody was interviewing him for a newspaper story, right? And so this guy was talking to Shakira, who's his wife, right? In the other room, and he was listening at the door, right? And so the guy said to her, "What was it about Michael that attracted you to him?" And he was listening. Oh, I want to hear that. Was it my good looks? My wavy blonde hair? What was it? And she said, to tell you the truth, it was the way he treated his mother.
Oh, wow.
And he'd never thought about it. What? But she said, I knew he was a good person because of the way he treated his mother.
Oh, wow.
So it's like you never know, right? I mean, you never know what is going to tip the scales for any particular situation or person. But yeah, so congratulations to you. You're making, you're going by leaps and bounds here, writing books, doing presentations in bookstores, got an agent to make commercials. When you thank the Academy, I want you to mention. I want to thank Anthony Hamilton for his Zoom calls.
Yes, the many Zoom calls.
Yeah, that's right.
Deal, my friend, deal.
So anyway, that's what I want to talk about today because to me it really helps if you can, at least for me, right? It helps if I can see something visually. It's like,
yep.
I don't understand it, but if I can get a picture of it. So this whole idea of the map of inner space time and the connection between the future self and the past self and the present self and the light cone. To me, it's a way of understanding how some of these complex principles can make sense, right? But I'm glad you were here, so we had a chance to go through this because I did the first part last week with Greg, and then so I was looking forward to doing this part today. So thanks for
happy to help.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, you have a wonderful day.
I will.
What does Joe Vitale say? Expect miracles.
There you go. I created an event and I invited a whole bunch of people, and so I am anticipating a nice big crowd. So it'll be good.
Yeah, good for you.
Okay. Bye. See you next week.
Yep. See you later.
We would love to have you join us in this online community for $1 a day. You get your own PDF copy of the book upon which this entire training series is based, along with 2 powerful meditation visualization recordings. You also get a free copy of this Design Your Life workbook and a 4-hour video course that tells you how to use it to change your life step by step. You get lifetime access to all of this on day 1, and you can cancel your registration at any time. Just go to mindtimeandpower.com and click the link to join the online community.